Hello, thank you so much for joining us for this week's ScotWeek podcast. I'm Kelsey, Deanne, I'm the Vice President of ScotWeek, and
I'm a Cindi McIntosh, and I'm just along for the ride.
she is our beautiful President of ScotWeek, our fearless leader. And we're so excited for this week. We have Tony McGeever on with us. Hi, Tony.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good.
Tony, where are you coming to us from today, Tony?
I am in the lovely city of London. Yes, the capital of England. Yes.
Nice. Very And where are you originally from? Scotland, Tony?
Yes, I born and raised in the much better city of Edinburgh. Yeah, I'm an Edinburgh boy. Yeah, born and bred.
Love Edinburgh. It's one of my most favorite all-time cities in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely Europe, for sure. It's just so stunningly beautiful.
Yeah, it is. And it's, I think growing up as a kid, you slightly take it for granted because you don't really know where you are, until you start to travel. And then you go, God, I've been lucky enough to be born and raised in a historic, iconic, beautiful city, So,
yes.
And it definitely does sort of shape you as well. So
what was it like growing up in Edinburgh?
Yeah, well, I'm an 80s kid. And I was actually listening to one of your podcasts. It was Mr. B, he said it absolutely beautiful what Scotland was, and it's like any place, yes, on the surface, it's a beautiful postcard, but there is, sort of a darkness to it as well. And like any city, and I think it's always honest, you have to be honest it's all well saying, yeah, Scotland's beautiful, we've got bagpipes and things like that. But by doing that, we've got to face the reality that, we do have problems, we do have poverty as well, unemployment. So sometimes it's not good to, sort of look at where you're from through sort of like rose-tinted spectacles. But yeah, growing up in the 80s, I kind of grew out in a small town just outside Edinburgh on the outskirts. So like countryside. I grew up in the 80s when there was no internet, really, no Facebook, no PlayStations. So I was sort of maybe like the last generation who literally had dirt underneath their nails and had to get back home before the street lights went on. So which is great, so. But yeah, absolutely fantastic upbringing. So.
And what was next?
Very cool.
Oh, sorry. What was next for you in life? How did you get? What brought you to London? And you're an actor on stage and screen. So tell us about that journey.
Yeah, certainly. So it's acting's kind of been. I knew I wanted to be an actor by the age of 4. I might have not known what it was, but I knew. I remember the moment. I was watching the film My Girl, and my sister used to have a part-time job because she was at university at the same drama school that I went to at the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama. So I used to go and help her. She used to do ironing and like clean the caravans down at the park. Mm-hmm. And for my duties, my pay, she would take me to the cinema every Friday, get me some popcorn, sweets and juice. And I watched My Girl, and for the first time, I was watching a film and it really affected me emotionally. And I didn't know what was happening to me. I was about 9 years old, probably a little bit too young to see that film at the time. But and the characters were the same age as me on screen. And that was the moment I was like, I want to be in that world. I want to be a part of it. And ever since then, I would do anything and everything, to be an actor. And obviously, like I said, it's going back to being from Edinburgh. You've got the Fringe, the Edinburgh International Festival. You just can't. It's literally surrounds you. So yeah, it's sort of like that, and then you just keep. As we all know, it is a very hard life to go ahead, but you just got to be determined, and just keep trying. And I was lucky enough to go to the Royal Scottish Academy. I got spotted by a wonderful casting director, Orla O'Connor, my first year. And I got a TV show. And from that, I got an agent. And then we could say the rest is history. So...
Well, you were in one of my all-time favorite shows, Shetland.
Yes, yeah.
And I have seen every episode at least 2 times.
Yeah, that was again, yeah.
Riveting,
Sorry,
very well done. Riveting show. I love that show.
Yeah, so I was very, very lucky to be a guest part in Shetland, and I keep saying, you know, actors, we always have our wish lists that we want to tick. Sometimes we never even get on that list because we're just lucky enough to have a job. But I used to watch Shetland, and it was shot beautifully. You've got I think, one of the greatest Scottish actors, Douglas Henshaw, phenomenal guy. And just, so there's obviously a lot of guest parts, but I was even luckier enough to play DC Jackson. So I wasn't a villager, I was actually a detective in their room. So it was a massive learning curve as well for me, just to see and watch that core cast do the work that they've done successfully for like over 5 seasons now. It was just fantastic little, you know, acting little nuances. Like a lot of people always say this, it just blew me away. So those who haven't seen Shetland, is a detective program, and Douglas Henshaw, he's got obviously the board behind him trying to work out who did the murder, so to speak. Now, usually that would be an art department's job, you know, to do the writing. No one is allowed to touch that board. That is Douglas Henshaw's board. That's his character. So they tell him what needs to go on that, and he'll write it himself. So he's actually working out himself. That is just method. I was just blown away. Just a little golden nugget, you know, as an actor that you take on, and hopefully, you know, some way down the line, I will use that.
I love that. That's phenomenal to even hear that from you. And you know, the other thing, it's just so well written, and the show's very well done, and his sidekick is Tosh.
Yeah.
Because I'm Mackintosh, so I just want somebody to call me. I want somebody to call me Tosh just for fun.
Oh, I'll call you Tosh. I didn't know that.
Nickname now. Yeah.
Done. Oh my goodness. And just from an acting standpoint, you know, I studied in London. I was fortunate to stay during the summers at RADA, and there's people from all over the world that came, and I got to learn from them. But I'm always fascinated about different drama schools around the world, especially New York. There's this, you know, rivalry between New York and London, and New York and Los Angeles, excuse me. So what has your experience been working with actors that have studied from various places in the UK and abroad? Like, what kind of differences and similarities have you seen?
Yeah, definitely. You know, you kind of said there's always sort of that. Always gets talked about the difference between sort of, I'll say, like stateside and sort of traditional British sort of school training. I would say there's like, I hate to use the word Americans, but that's what it is. I think Americans are more prepared than British people. And we've seen this, I mean, just in terms of like auditioning, our drama teacher showed us this. So you always have like your portfolio of songs to prepare, you know? And, you know, people from America, they would come over, they would already have it already ready in a book. They knew them all by heart, and we had to go and search. But I think in terms of the strength that comes from sort of British actors, in a way, is sort of, again, sort of treading the boards, so to speak. You know that classic theatre training. and then really doing the work, you know, in terms of, you know, it's, we've got a fantastic theatre history behind us. But your strength, guys, you've got for TV and movies, which we don't have. So it's like plus points, and I think anyone who is an actor, you know, everyone's always hard working, you know, everyone respects. That's what I want. I just want to see someone who's hard working, respects one another, and wants to have fun. And I think it doesn't matter where you are from the world as an actor. I think if you decide to become an actor in life, you've already got those qualities within you. So it's not really to do with your training, it's the person who you are.
100% agree with that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so tell us about, what's the word? I guess I'm excited to hear more about this. So you were in War Horse on the West End for 2 years. Tell us about that, please.
Yes. Now that was a phone call you don't get very often. And I always have stories, you know, about how I got my jobs, because I could literally write a book and people go, that never happened. But I've got witnesses. For that one, I was up, not Shetland, but up in Orkney at the time, shooting a film. And it was very long hours. It was a late shoot. And I think we were finishing at 8 o'clock at night or something, raining cold. And my agent phoned me saying, you're to be in London tomorrow morning. And I'm like, and she went, where are you? And I went, well, you know where I am. I'm as high up north in Scotland as you can get. I'm on a remote island, you know. How do you expect me to get to London tomorrow morning? And she went, well, you better, because the National Theatre want to see you. So I had to catch 3 planes. I had to get this small little airplane, propeller plane, which when you looked at it, I was like, that's not going to fly, but it did. To Inverness, then a plane from Inverness to Edinburgh, then Edinburgh down to London. And I was so tired from the night before, all the travelling. I went in and I was an emotional wreck. I did the scene and it really helped. And then the casting director ran out after me going, who are you? Really, you know. So I had a quick general. And then I got the phone call about 3 days later. Because they had to move fast, because I was meant to be doing a world tour with the Royal Shakespeare Company of Dunsinane. And I'd already done the UK tour. And I'd already previously did it at the Hampstead Theatre in London. And as much as I love the play that I did, and I love the cast so much, it was like, okay, do you want to travel the world for a bit, doing a play that you've loved and done with a cast that you love, or do you want to take on something that you've always dreamed of doing? And that was War Horse. So obviously it was a no-brainer. So yeah, so I was in it for 2 years. And during the centenary as well, 2014, 100 years of the war. So that was a very special year. You know, every day was a remembrance or a centenary, because a battle happened on that day or something happened. So every single day was a special day for the whole entire year, which will never happen again. So I did it for 2 years, playing the part of David Taylor, which was the main character's best friend. And I got to do some puppeteering as well. So I puppeteered Baby Joey, which is fantastic. Yeah, it's just...
Oh my goodness, how was that? How did you do that?
So we got fantastic training. So it's Handspring Puppet Company, which was traditionally a South African theatre company, national. Obviously, I approached them to, hopefully they had the idea of doing a show using puppets. But the unique thing about Handspring Puppet Company and the puppets that they use is the puppets breathe, you know. Beforehand, we'd never seen a puppet breathe, and it gives life, you know, and that was phenomenal, learning those skills. And the great thing about War Horse that really hit me was, because obviously it'd been running for so long, and it was literally, it's quite ironic, I've actually got Laphroaig lore here, because lore means passing down of knowledge to the next generation. And so we were getting like 9 years of like education and practice from people, you know, it's almost like the film Highlander, you know, there can be only one, where when he kills someone, he gets their powers. It was like that. All their knowledge was passed on to us, then what we learned would be passed on to the next generation. And it's the whole group, you know, they say you never leave Warhorse, and you don't, because you're always asked back, or you always meet up with people. It was literally like a drama school. So fond memories, so many stories as well. So I can literally spend the whole night talking stories about it. I won't bore you. Yeah.
No, it would be boring. That sounds so exciting. What was do you have a moment on that stage that really stands out, or one of those fun stories that you'd like to share with us that would be fun to tell?
Yeah, you know, you've got to be careful with these things because it's the National Theatre. But it was there's some very poignant moments during it, but a lot of funny moments as well. You know, things do go wrong in a multi-million-pound West End show. But I remember one night we were about to do it, and then suddenly outside in the corridors, our dressing rooms, there was men in suits with like earpieces on, and we were going, "What the hell's going on?" You know, literally, it was like, well, it was the Secret Service basically had come in, and then so our Prime Minister came and watched us, but they had said, but no one, obviously, he can't phone ahead, you know, things like that, because for security he just turns up, or they'll get half an hour notice. Things like that, you know, just random. You never knew who was going to be in the audience that night. And stage right, there's a toilet. There was a toilet. So the Queen's favourite show is Warhorse because she loves horses. So there's a toilet. A lot of people don't know this. There's a toilet which is locked specially just for the Queen, just in case she turns up to see the show.
Oh my goodness.
No one's allowed. No one's allowed, and it's locked. And there was rumours, you know, people were saying, "Oh yeah, it's made of gold" and things like that. But we weren't even allowed to go in there. But it was a toilet for the Queen, apparently. So.
Did she ever come? Did you know? Was she there?
Well, for the centenary, it was, and for the National Theatre, I think they had their centenary as well. Or they had a 50 or 60, I can't remember. No, it was for her birthday. We did sort of not like a showcase, but we had Joey out and things like that along the Thames. So she'd never seen the actual show, but we did get to see her go past with Joey and things like that. So
phenomenal, very fun.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. And so I see all these amazing whiskeys.
Yes.
Tell us about your whiskey passion. How did that start, and what's going on now?
Yeah, so again, it kind of links to Warhorse as well. Warhorse has got so much to that I can blame on, or try to blame. It's always myself, to be honest. Yeah, so at the time of Warhorse, I think, well, apparently for 1 year, I was the only Scottish actor on the West End for some reason. I don't know who worked that out. I don't know, but apparently it was true. And so whiskey companies started sending me bottles of whiskey to promote on, or like Twitter and things like that. And even my cast for birthdays as well, because I had 2 birthdays, you know, they went, "Oh, Tony's Scottish, he'll drink whiskey." And I'll be honest, you know, I wasn't then a big whiskey drinker. And it's very important, you know, a lot of people associate all Scottish people drink whiskey, and we don't, sadly, you know. And we might get on later on about when I talk about the different company that I'm doing. But after Warhorse, you know, as all jobbing actors, you know, we need to earn our keep, especially if you're living in London. And there was a private whiskey club in Soho called the Soho Whiskey Club. And it's still to this day my favourite. And I'll take you guys when you come. And I always say to everyone, you have to check this place out.
September.
Yes, it is what a whiskey club should be, and it's what people what you think whiskey should be. And, you know, it's not too pompous. It's not shirt and tie. It's just really relaxed, conversational. And I got offered a job to do whiskey tasting. And from there, I said, I don't really know much about whiskey. And George, who's a good friend now, he went, 1, you're Scottish. 2, you're an actor and you can talk the socks off anyone. 3, you'll learn whiskey. And he encouraged me to drink as much whiskey as I could. And the rule was, if someone asked for a whiskey, you know, honesty is the best policy. I would say, I've never tried it. Let's try it together. So I would be learning with the person at the same time. So my knowledge went from this to unbelievable. You know, it was like riding a bike. So yes, that's how I got into whiskey. And then I moved back to Scotland. And then one of my best friends from school, his mum and dad had started a company called Edinburgh Gin. So I've got good friends. And I really wanted to get some distillery experience. So I went and worked at their distillery, teaching the history of gin. And at the time, we got bought by a company called Ian MacLeod. They do like Glengoyne, Tamdhu whiskey. And it was good because I had a bit of whiskey experience as well, which was good for the shop. So that's, it's just by then from the Soul Whiskey Club and getting all these bottles from whiskey, I was just fascinated by the world. And not really because of the drink, but because of the storytelling, you know, the history. It's just, it's just like, it just blew me away, all these different stories and the history and it's the fact, it's just a concept that still doesn't get me, like this lore, you know, this was created 10 years ago, or there's bottles that I can have that were someone made before I was born, and it's been sleeping there in a barrel doing nothing. It's time travel. It is literally time travel that you're doing every drink. So,
I never really thought about it. I never really thought about it like that, but that's amazing how, and you know, if you want to extend that invitation to us, Kelsey and I feel like we can be there about this time tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, get the red eye, come over. It's honestly, it's yeah.
You're gonna host it for 2 weeks of quarantine?
Plenty of whiskey, it's fine.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. And gin's becoming such a big thing. Well, you know, it has been in recent years, but I just going back 20 years, you know, from 20 years ago, gin's becoming quite a big thing in Scotland, I feel like. Yeah,
it's absolutely massive. And it's just really down to a financial and technical point of view. It kind of goes hand in hand with the whiskey boom that we're kind of having. A lot of new whiskey distilleries opening up, or a lot of, which is amazing, a lot of old distilleries that had been mothballed are reopening up again. And for those who don't know, for a whiskey to be a whiskey, you need to wait 3 years and 1 day. 1 day, obviously, for that leap year. So 3 years and 1 day before you can technically call it a Scottish whiskey and sell it. What do you do if you've got a brand new distillery, you know, and you've got to wait 3 years and 1 day? You can't sell anything. You've got bills to pay, staff to pay, the lights, you know, electricity to keep going. What do? You make gin, and you can make gin within 24 hours. So that's why you see a lot of whiskey distilleries, newer ones, will have a gin. For example, Bruichladdich, I think they mothballed around about 1983, around about the 80s, early 80s, on Islay, and they came back and they produced, I think, one of the finest gins, the Botanist, to sort of generate, you know, their income while they waited for their new whiskey to come. So not only do they make fantastic whiskey, they make, I think, one of the best gins as well. So
that's fantastic. You know, I never really thought about that. You know, I never really thought about that the gin can be made that quickly, but that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Wow. And so tell us about your whiskey company, A Barrel of Laughs.
Yeah, so it's kind of like born out of doing whiskey tastings down in London, and I was sort of getting used being a consultant for a few friends and things like that in whiskey bars, and I would be saying, "Oh, you need to pick this barrel for people's bottlings and things like that." They were just using what limited knowledge I had, or I'm always learning, and I'll never stop learning about whiskey. And yeah, and then people were saying, "Oh, what's your top 5 whiskies? What's this? What's that?" And then people were saying, why don't you just do it for yourself? And the other reason why I started a Barrel of Laughs is it's kind of going back to, not everyone understands whiskey. People stay clear of it in Scotland, and it's just down to education. Usually in Scotland, people's first taste of whiskey is your granny or granddad's, whiskey cabinet at the age of like 16, when it's illegal to drink, and you drink it really fast. And of course, you're going to be put off by it, and you'll never go near it. So there's that to tackle, and also it's kind of round sort of the MTV generation, we call it. Rock and roll was big. And Jack Daniels invaded the UK, and I can put my hand up. When I was going to clubs and bars, you would say a Jack and Coke, and when there was these fantastic whiskies behind the bar, the bar, or even fantastic blends behind the bar, you just didn't know, you didn't want to touch it. So I've kind of got the idea to really go back to basics, really simple, and educate people through sort of social media like Instagram. So we've got an Instagram page that we've started to set up. It's not fully there yet, but through that Instagram page, through things like TikTok, just through, the new age social medias, I'll start to hopefully slowly teach people that don't be scared of a dram, enjoy it, learn about the history from that. And from that, we've got about 10 barrels of whiskey sleeping at the moment from all the different regions from Scotland. So we will be releasing our own individual bottling of distilleries that we've chosen. And Kelsey, you'll be happy to know we've got a few Speysides in there for you. So I know you're a Spey girl. So we've got a few. So that's going to be exciting to actually physically touch something that I've picked, and it's got sort of the name on it. Yeah.
And I know it says 3 years and 1 day. So how much longer do you have?
Well, we've she wants it now. We've got a lot of them are new makes, so new spirit that have just went in. But we've got about 2 or 3 that I could bottle at the moment. So got a few 5-year-olds there. But we want to make an official launch of the company. I'm going to host a little party somewhere. That's next April, which is my birthday. So there we are. So
when's your birthday?
My birthday is the 18th of April. I'm in Aries. So yeah.
And April 21st.
Yeah, see? There we are.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You should come for ScotWeek, and then we can celebrate your birthday.
Yeah, I was talking to, I'll definitely bring some over. Maybe, yeah. Why not? That could be a launch. I could do a whiskey tasting for ScotWeek. There we are.
Yes. Amazing. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
We should talk after this, seriously, about that.
Yeah. Or maybe get a few brands that I know everyone, maybe to sponsor some of it as well. So I'm sure everyone would want to sponsor ScotWeek anyway, the whiskey, It's kind of goes back to help everyone. So
from your lips to the universe, that would be fantastic. That would be really good. Yeah. Maybe you want to, if you have time, because we want to start this. We kind of started it already with our social media, and especially when yours is up and running, with your whiskey, but or even your personal social media, but. Our Whiskey Wednesdays. We want to do Whiskey Wednesdays.
Whiskey Wednesdays.
Yeah, Whiskey Wednesdays. I know. Yeah. But just a little bit of informative information. We're trying to throw out little tidbits of information stuff, you know, some obscure facts here and there that maybe people have never heard or didn't know, just as you're trying to educate people about whiskey, you know, like, hey, here's this whiskey. Did you know that this is how Glenturret is made? Did you know that this, you know, things like that.
That's what I did, yeah. But that's what I was saying. That's why I got so interested. You learn these amazing facts, and some of them are really funny facts. You know,
tell us what.
Deanston Distillery, for example. So Deanston Distillery used to be. If anyone's seen the film Angel's Share, that is they used Deanston Distillery there. England, I'm trying to think, when did England win the World Cup? 1966, okay? And as every Scots person will say, you know, we always hear about England winning the World Cup in 1966. Now, Deanston were coming back, and they were due to open in 1966, but they waited one more year till 1967 because they did not want the date 1966 to be on any of their bottles.
My goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's little things like that. Just humor. That's Scottish humor for you. So, yeah.
Tony, it's been so wonderful having you on our ScotWeek podcast. We are so excited to have you on. We want to talk to you more. I'm hoping that we can keep up with you and with what you're doing. Talk to you again.
Wait, before you wrap up, there's like very quick. I know we're running out of time, but I want to. There's his project with Laphroaig that is. I want him to really talk about.
Sorry,
tell us about your project with Laphroaig.
Yeah. So I can't really obviously say too much. It's a very sensitive. At the moment, we're at that sort of sensitive stage. But we're basically writing the story, what's already written by a wonderful, intelligent lady called Bessie Williamson, or Elizabeth Williamson. And she went over to Laphroaig to be a temporary typist for 3 months. And she ended up owning and running Laphroaig. So she was the first female distillery owner. And she did this, even today, you know, to go from typist, you know, to owning. It's nearly impossible now because all whiskey distilleries are owned by big, massive companies now. But she did that from typist all the way up. But she, every time, you know, that in its story in itself, for a single female to do that, in the 40s in such a male-dominated society is just blew me away. And we started to uncover all the other great things that she did. During the war, the Second World War, a lot of distilleries were mothballed, but she kept Laphroaig running. Laphroaig was commandeered by the army, but this didn't stop her. And so she made Laphroaig survive through that. And she actually had to become a secret operative because they were storing sensitive material, ammo at Laphroaig. So she was a Second World War secret spy in a way, because the Germans had to make sure as if the distillery was running as normal, but behind closed doors there was lots going on. That, and then we uncovered she did obviously. Laphroaig during Prohibition in America was sold due to it being in a green bottle. It was a medicinal tonic. That's how they got away. And we found out the fact that when Prohibition happened and you could sell medicinal tonics, 700 pharmacies opened up in New York.
Oh my goodness!
I don't think they're pharmacies, to tell the truth.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. And the best thing, they were run by the gangs, by the mafia. And she had to single-handedly go over there and negotiate tough deals with the mafia. This little woman from Scotland, big mob bosses in New York that we all know famously who they are. And she was saying no for an answer to get the best deal for Isla, for her people. And then it just goes on and on. These amazing stories, hardship and graft. She just literally buried her feet in and didn't move. So fascinating story that we want to bring to the bigger screen. So I can't really say what's called yet, but we're in negotiations, and it's really, really exciting just to tell a wonderful story. And hopefully by April, I want to say cat out of the bag, but the whiskey will be out the barrel, we'll say. So, yeah.
That's amazing. And so you're planning on, you're one of the producers and helping with writing this and
yeah, so I'm writing it with my co-writer, Rebecca King. She's a fantastic director, sort of filmmaker, and I thought she would bring sort of the right sort of mood that I couldn't bring to the script. So it's really exciting. She's brought things that I would never think about as well. So yeah,
very cool.
We must have you back on to talk more about this. We would love to do that. Maybe next month, even if that's not too soon, because I feel like we could talk to you for hours and hours. You're just amazing. I want to hear more and find out more.
Yeah. Scratching the surface, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tony,
thank you so much for having me. And I know a lot of say what you guys are doing. It's amazing, that you support our little country and as much and promote it as well. And so I can't wait to see what happens with ScotWeek. So.
Oh gosh, well, Tony, thank you. I have been going to Scotland almost my whole life. Yeah. I play bagpipes. My family's from the north, just south of Moy. And from the moment I was very young and landed in Scotland, I just knew, I felt this energy, that I just knew that my path was so, I was just going to be there all the time. And I have built such a great love for Scotland and all things Scottish, and playing my instrument all the time. And this is not about me, this is about you, but I just...
Oh, no. Not everyone.
I feel so fortunate to be able to do something for Scotland in some small way. It's just phenomenal. I am so happy to be able to do anything and do everything and just show the world the beauty of Scotland. There's so many beautiful things. And like you say, I know, there's problems everywhere in the world. There's poverty, there's issues that need to be dealt with, but there's so much beauty and so much history and so much innovation and such a bright future for Scotland. And I feel like I want to show the world this place that I love.
We welcome you with open arms and a dram ready at the bar for you. There we are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony, so much. And we'll speak soon.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good. All right. Sláinte. Bye.
So are you guys going on